Welcome to the NAP, the no answer period, where we usually cover the question period, prefaced by a review of the far left evil that has beset our land. But I got trapped on a 401 today in some heavy traffic, so we're starting the show a little later. The NAP precedes the question period, usually by 45 minutes, but not today. So we're going to keep covering the lower house until the lower house decides to stop showing up. Yeah, we're streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and YouTube. And I would love to thank my followers, so I will. I thank you so much, my followers and subscribers. It makes all of this worthwhile. And this is how we keep building the channel. Thank you so much. And please like, share, subscribe. And please leave some comments. Comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving it down with my forbidden words. So let's get into the intro, and then we will be right back with the show. We can do this now. Maybe this time with some sound then.
Access security funding, that there is zero enforcement of the laws that are already on the books. And I'm going to give the Minister of Public Safety an opportunity. Get up in his chair, say that it's terrorism, and tell this House what he's going to do, when he's going to do it, and how he's going to do it.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Speech yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
The Minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears.
It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
All of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Know that this government has their back and we will continue to do this. Moving forward, there's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Hey, of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been
Canada's
made.
economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Move on, man, move on. Point of order. There was some very unparliamentary language that we heard today.
Sets us up well for the new world. Order.
There is zero enforcement of the laws that are already on the books. And I'm going to give the Minister of Public Safety an opportunity. Get up in his chair, say that it's terrorism, and tell this House what he's going to do it and how he's going to trade and live here in Canada. When is he or anyone in the government going to say any of those things?
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
My comment by telling the truth that the answer was provide extra.
But a lot of people do eat iguanas. They're actually, I have had iguana. It's fine.
Yeah.
The good news is also some of these iguanas, as far as people eating them, they are halal. So, yeah.
Oh, good.
Sorry. That's way funnier than I thought it would be because of the sound effects.
Nailed it.
Oh, sorry, people on audio. You're missing out.
Hey, welcome. Welcome back to the nap. The no answer period. Yes, trapped on a 401 today. Usually start the show a little earlier, but I've been going all morning, so there's not much prep for the show, but that's okay. We do have a few things. As usual, we like to cover what is happening in Parliament prior to this. Yesterday, of course, in the lower house, there was plenty discussed, and it looks like they have passed Bill C9, so that's not a good thing. Yesterday, of course, they're rehashing the fact that liberal policies have destroyed the economy, and people just can't get ahead. It's causing massive inflation, but the liberals will not. No projects are being developed at all. Why am I getting this choppiness again? I don't know why the CPU keeps there's nothing else here. Oh, wait, hang on a sec. That might have been causing the issues. That's been closed. I don't know why that was open. Let's hope that fixes it. Right. So no projects have been developed so far. And of course, they are slowly announcing some things that are being developed. But again, where have they been for the past 10 years? And remember, they said that they were going to be building faster than most people can build stuff. I just realized I don't have my lights on. There we go. Maybe now we can see a little better. And of course, the amount of terrorism that is happening in Canada, especially over the last week, with 3 synagogues being shot up, it looks like the Liberal government keeps saying that it's not our problem, it's the province's problem, or no, it's these departments, they have to go through, or they absolutely refuse to deport any of those criminals whatsoever, because we know what's going to happen. They want to give them citizenship, so they vote Liberal. So that particular video is put together called Liberals Refuse to Deport Terrorists. You can look that up. And of course, that whole bunch of stuff in there, including Julie Dabrusen thinking that the biggest issue we have to deal with in hatred in Canada today is people walking around with swastikas. Yeah, I don't think anyone was wearing a swastika when they shot up those synagogues last week, or when they probably shot up the U.S. consulate in Toronto today. Yeah, I just read that this morning. And of course, we've got our stuff there on Rumble. So let's go straight into this little video here by Harrison Faulkner. And then after that, we will go into another short video by Natasha, Montreal.
Nations have publicly stated that they will refuse to recognize an independent Alberta. You propose that in a free Alberta, Aboriginal rights should not exist. Is it at all possible for there to be an independent Alberta without the consent of its First Nations?
100%. 100%. Let me go back to the words of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said that in negotiations that follow a successful referendum, there will be no conclusions predetermined by law on any issue. So the vision that I and others have for an independent Alberta is a country that has at its root the principles of Western civilization as reflected in its legal system that we have failed to do in Canada. And that is, first and foremost, the idea of blind justice. That is, the same rules and standards and laws apply to everyone without regard to who you are, without regard to your race, without regard to your sex, without regard to who your parents are, what culture you come from. At the time that treaties were made, there were 2 groups of people. There are not 2 groups of people anymore. And if Alberta is to be a country that is governed in accordance with this fundamental principle of Western civilization, blind justice, equal application of the law, equal protection of the law, then it is untenable for any group of people to have different special rights compared to anybody else.
Bruce has given, I think, a thoughtful articulation of the sort of classical liberal perspective that race should not be a factor in the relationship between the state and the individual. But that ship sailed around in the 1870s in the Alberta Western Canadian context when we signed those treaties that cannot, and what Bruce is articulating, I think by the way, there's an internal debate, Harrison, or an internal disagreement amongst pro-separatists. I think Bruce is being the intellectually honest one here. There are others who pretend that Alberta could somehow seamlessly assume the treaty obligations and there's no fuss. I think Bruce is being absolutely right. If you create a separate Alberta state, it is de novo. It's a blank slate. And that implies Section 34, obviously that Section 35 of the 1982 Constitution on Indigenous rights is extinguished. And I think it also implies the treaties are extinguished. There's one very big problem with that, which is the counterparties to the treaties. Those treaty rights holders, those bands, or as we now say nations, who signed those agreements in perpetuity, are not simply going to abandon that. And that's why they have raised the strongest possible opposition to the concept of separation, because they see it as implicitly an extinguishment of their treaty rights, of their status, and they are not going to abide it. Now, here's the practical reality. Bruce can make, I think, articulate theoretical arguments, but here is the real world, concrete reality, that if we go down that road, we will move from what is, I think, broadly a very positive relationship between Alberta First Nations and the private sector and with the Alberta government to one of constant and serious conflict. There will be endless litigation and certainly much more than that, social and economic strife.
So that's what happens in an area of the planet that has never had to deal with war and never had to deal with that kind of strife whatsoever, right? They think everything can be accomplished through words, through negotiations. I don't think what Jason Kenney doesn't realize that if Alberta does become an independent state, they will be independent. They won't have to deal with this fuckery. They're going to be making up their own rules. Now, of course, throughout that process, they might adapt some of those treaties into Alberta itself. But realistically, I mean, if you looked at another part of the planet, when another country invades another country and they take over, yeah, you think there's any kind of treaty discussions there as what's happening? We have a very specific situation happening here in North America, and everybody's worried about everyone else's rights except for the people that actually built up the land, all those taxpayers that are constantly being ripped off, and the ones that have had enough are saying, screw this, we're going to work under the umbrella of misery and abuse anymore. Really down to that. And of course, this, we're still getting some chopping. So we will reduce our output again, our bit rate. We'll bring that down to 1500. See if that fixes the issue. I doubt it will, because I'm a poor veteran with cheap equipment. All right, let's get on to the next video. Oh, it looks like they should just about be ready to start the house sitting. Make sure we're not going to miss that. There we go. Statements by members. Let me bring that down to the side there. While we watch another video.
Down.
Welcome, Bruce.
Thanks, Natasha. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. How about you give everybody a brief overview of who you are, what you do?
Oh dear. Well, okay. I'm a professor at the law school at Queens, and I run a think tank called Rights Probe, which is a project of the Energy Probe Research Foundation, which is a very long-standing think tank in Canada, dealt with all kinds of issues like energy and environment and property rights and so on.
Best of luck to the
and I've been involved in. Oh, you have a friend. That's not great.
Sorry.
Rights Probe has been involved in all kinds of things, starting with the COVID debacle, and now with Alberta independence, and all things in between. So that just people can find me at rightsprobe.org, where all our materials are posted. Also, I have a Substack under my name, and they can follow me on X at Party Bruce.
Okay. Are you in Alberta?
I'm not presently in Alberta at the moment, although I have been there recently and will be again. But right now I'm in Toronto.
Okay. And are you teaching right now at Queens?
I'm actually on sabbatical this year, so I won't be in Kingston very much.
Okay. Interesting. Very good. All right. So let's jump into it. So we're going to talk about Bill C9 and Bill C8. So why don't you give people an overview of Bill C9?
Yes. Okay. So thanks. These two bills, C8 and C9, are actually quite different, but they're also connected. Right. So Bill C9 is a bill that the government has introduced to provide amendments to the criminal code. This is the hate speech bill. And it's got some problematic parts to it. You may recall that in the previous Parliament, they had a bill called C63, which was also about speech. And it was more far-ranging than this one. This is just criminal code. The other one was problematic in many ways. This is a narrower version of C63. And it's all about hate speech and hate crimes and so on. And I'll get into the details of that, but I just want to give a perspective, a context for the moment, which is this. As bad as Bill C8 is, we already have provisions in the criminal code that prohibit hate speech. Unlike the Americans. So in both Canada and the US, we have a constitutional provision, ours in the Charter and theirs in the Bill of Rights. It says freedom of expression, free speech. And both provisions are very bald, like there's no detail. It just says, freedom of speech. And you would have thought, therefore, that given the similarities in the provisions, that the law, the content of those rights would be the same. But of course, that's not so, because there's two different countries and two different courts, and we have ended up in a much different place than the Americans have. Under our freedom of expression provision guarantee in the Charter of Rights, the Supreme Court of Canada has said that the government can police your so-called hate speech, which is not a thing in the U.S. They don't police hate speech because there is no such thing as hate speech, because the Constitution doesn't allow the government to police hate speech, right? So we are already in bad territory, and we have an existing provision in the criminal code in section 319. I'll just refer people to it that prohibits hate speech. It goes like this. This is 319.2. Everyone who by communicating statements other than in private conversation willfully promotes hatred against any identifiable group is guilty of an offense. Now, what is hate speech? And of course, nobody knows what hate speech is. And one of the things that the government is doing in this bill, C9, is to propose a definition of hate speech. And the definition that they propose is this. Well,
Questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
On a toujours eu
There have always been wars in the Middle East, and we can't control those things. But here, at home, we didn't have these problems. People would keep these problems at home. After 10 years of out-of-control liberal policies on the border, on law and order, they've allowed criminals, terrorists, and illegal weapons to enter this country. And criminals are on our street. Now, there are shootings at synagogues, Iranian dissidents being killed, other shootings. 700 regime agents are here. What will the Prime Minister do to restore safety in this country? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, the government deplores the shootings on synagogues in Toronto at the American consulate. This is one of the reasons why the government is vigilant with respect to terrorists. The Revolutionary Guard are registered as a terrorist entity.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
But the Liberal Prime Minister allows these terrorists to stay in the country, is not deporting them. We need to be safe here and affordable, have an affordable life. And before this war, the Prime Minister, this Liberal Prime Minister, delivered the worst food inflation in the G7. Inflation that has caused an increase in the cost of food higher than in other countries. It has to do with his own inflationary taxes and policies. Will he undo these inflationary taxes and policies so that Canadians can afford groceries? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government is taking action against the Revolutionary Guard Corps. There are 10,000 people who are disallowed from this country. We are taking action with respect to Canadians' spending power. We've reduced taxes for Canadians. We've increased benefits, food benefits. We have provided daycare to Canadian families.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
There have always been wars in the Middle East, but never before did those wars spill onto our streets here in Canada. But after 10 years of liberal immigration, liberal open borders, they have allowed criminals, terrorists, illegal guns to enter our country. After 10 years of liberal catch and release laws that the Prime Minister has not changed one word on, we have criminals released on our streets, and now our synagogues are being shot. Iranian dissidents killed on our streets, and there's 700 IRGC terrorist agents on our streets. What will the Prime Minister do to restore the safety that Canadians had before his Liberal government took office?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we got to go quick here. C-14 changes the bail laws. You might want to read it. Definitely wants to support it. That member opposite has voted against every single gun control measure ever put before this House. This government has banned the Islamic Guard. This government's sanctioned over 200 individuals, over 200 Iranian entities. This government is investigating over 17,000 individual cases. We are protecting this country with 1,000 more RCMP, 1,000 more.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
What I voted against was a Liberal approach that has doubled gun crime by wasting billions going after duck hunters, farmers, and legal sport shooters. The Prime Minister is more worried about protecting turkeys from hunters than he is about protecting synagogues from terrorists, Mr. Speaker. That's the real problem. He's got 700 IRGC terrorists in this country. It doesn't matter if they're banned. If they're on our streets, they are a danger. They're shooting up synagogues, killing dissidents, and threatening our people. Will he reverse the Liberal agenda that unleashed this violence on our streets?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, We, on this side of the House, we want to protect synagogues. We want to protect community centers. We want to protect places of worship, which is why C9 is before this House today. I challenge the member opposite to put his votes behind his words to protect the Jewish community, to protect communities of faith across this country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, his solution to synagogues being shot up is to ban sections of the Jewish Torah. Mr. Speaker, that is not our solution on this side of the House. And that's according to his own immigration minister, his own heritage minister. We need to be safe at home. We need to be affordable at home. But even before this war broke out and raised gas prices, this Prime Minister doubled food price inflation and gave us the worst grocery price increases in all of the G7. So excuses about global impacts are not going to work. Will the Prime Minister reverse his new taxes on food, fuel, farmers, and fertilizer so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would suggest that the member opposite read the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which protects the Torah, which protects the Bible, which protects freedom of expression. This House should not be otherwise informed by possible misrepresentation. We should follow the true word that protects all Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the question was about food prices. This Prime Minister said he would be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Since he took office, food price inflation has doubled. And this Prime Minister has introduced new taxes that increase the fuel prices of the farmers that feed us. Now, 2.2 million people are lined up at food banks and faced with even worse fuel costs today. So will the Prime Minister the Liberal Prime Minister, reverse his latest Liberal tax so that Canadians can afford to eat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it feels like Groundhog Day. I'm once again required to remind the member opposite that the impact of the industrial carbon tax on fuel prices is approximately zero. The impact, though, of our trade deals on the farmers in his constituency is absolutely enormous. It is almost planting season, and the farmers of Alberta, Battle River, Crowfoot can plant canola.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, we have big news here in Parliament. Put on your Sunday best. If you look at the Prime Minister's circumnavigating the globe like Marco Polo, he seems to be his own Foreign Affairs Minister. Unfortunately, this minister is not being excessively clear. In fact, yesterday was an extraordinary opportunity for him to explain to Parliament, following his own invitation, what his own policies are. When will he explain his strategic vision for the Middle East? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Canada's policy is clear. Canada supports the necessity of preventing Iran's nuclear program and exporting of any terrorism. Canada is not participating in the offensive operations of Israel and the United States and will not, ever. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. If it is clear, it will be news. Mr. Speaker, Canada is militarily a small player and in the middle tranche and is the most isolated, and apparently no one seems to understand Canada's position. Has he spoken to our allies in Europe, and what have they agreed to as to a common position? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I just had a conversation with the Macron, the president of the G7. I had a conversation with the Prime Minister of Japan. A meeting, in fact. I had a conversation with the President of the United States. Those are 3 members of the G7. I'm the 4th. I will be having a meeting with Mr. Starmer, 5. And then, Madame Meloni, yes, we will find a common agreement among the G7 countries. We will do that. And we will have a de-escalation. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. I should have specified together with convergence, and I think we're going to make some major changes to geography for the U.S. to be part of Europe. Does the Prime Minister intend to propose any short-term measures to support those people who are directly suffering and will continue to further suffer from this war? I'm talking about inflation, buying power, retirees, access to property for young families. I'm referring, in fact, to all of these things that are not being solved or won't be solved in Norway over 5 years, but right now, right here, for citizens in Quebec and Canada. The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, the best option is de-escalation, is to have peace. That is the reason why I have conversations with other members of the G7, members of the Middle East, like Qatar, Oman, the UAE, the Prime Minister of Lebanon. And 4th point, we need to use the G7's oil reserves.
Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Canadians are struggling to make ends meet. Record food bank usage, personal bankruptcy rates, and an increasing number of Canadians borrowing money to buy food are proof of that. While there are some things that are outside of our control, there are things that this government does control, like their new fuel tax, which is already raising the price of gas by 7 cents a litre and is set to climb up to 17 cents a litre, raising the cost of everything that Canadians buy. So when will the Liberals finally take responsible for their reckless policies and stop making life more expensive for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Let's be clear. Studies show that the impact of the industrial carbon price on food is zero. The clean fuel regulations do not impose a price at the pump. But what they do is create an impressive economy for our canola farmers. He should speak to the leader of his organization, of his Conservative Party. There's a canola crush plant in his constituency. This Canada's largest renewable diesel facility is right on the edge of that riding. Canola farmers will see their price go up by $1.09 a bushel, according to the Biofuels Association.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Every country in the G7 is facing external pressures, but this government stands alone in having created the worst food price inflation and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Instead of making life more affordable, the Liberals are making it worse with their higher fuel and carbon taxes that are raising the cost for farmers, fishers, and truckers, driving up the cost of everything for cash-strapped Canadians. So why don't the Liberals finally focus on what they can control and get rid of these harmful policies that are punishing Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about what we can control. Building cedar LNG, building wood fiber LNG, expanding Tilbury LNG, approving LNG Canada 2, approving Silicem, and approving the PRGT pipeline to the West Coast.
The Honourable Member for Tobique-Mactaquac.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know we cannot control what happens abroad, but this government controls the policies here at home. Under this Liberal government, Canada now has the worst food price inflation in the G7 and the only shrinking economy in the G7. Our families, seniors, workers, and those who transport our food have no alternative but to use fuel. These costs are imposed here at home, not abroad. When will the Liberals end the era of self-sabotage and remove the policies that are driving up costs here at home?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, they seem to like to repeat their question, so let me repeat the answer. Studies have shown the industrial carbon price does not increase the cost of food. The clean fuel regulations do not impose a price right at the pump. And if you want to be really clear, it creates an economic opportunity. I would think that they would like to see that. In fact, according to the Advanced Biofuels Canada Association, it will create or preserve an average farm revenue by $60,000. That should mean something to the members opposite.
The honourable member for Quebec-Marquette.
Mr. Speaker, tell that to the producers and farmers in Victoria, Carleton, and York counties in New Brunswick being hit by their newly renamed carbon tax, the clean fuel standard, which adds 7 cents a litre. At the same time, the Liberals have raised the industrial carbon tax on steel, aluminum, and on farming equipment. All this is driving up costs for dairy, beef, and poultry producers in my region and throughout the country. These costs are imposed here at home. I ask again, when will the Liberals end their era of self-sabotage and remove the policies making life more expensive for all Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of things we can't control in the world, but many things we can control. And what we can control is definitely how we build one Canadian economy. Good news is the manufacturing PMI. So basically the manufacturing new business activity, my colleague referred to steel, aluminum, auto, etc., is at a 13-month high. That means that businesses are now having more orders, more jobs are created. The tariff has impacted us, but you know what? We have a good plan. We're bouncing back, and we'll fight for jobs.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Katascomique, Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, I've spoken to farmers in my riding, and they're fed up. They constantly have to pay more and more for inputs such as gas, fertilizer, and farm equipment. And all because of Liberal taxes like the carbon tax and this clean fuel tax. And meanwhile, grocery prices are rising for everyone, and bills are skyrocketing, and it's hurting every family's wallet. When will this Liberal government finally stop hammering those who keep our communities alive and get rid of this inflationary taxation? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. To correct the facts that we hear over on the other side, it's not because you repeat something every day at question period that it means it's real. Based on all legitimate analyses, to make things clear, the influence of what he's referring to is zero. But there are some things we can control, some things we can't. But they should perhaps look at how they vote. They voted against a tax cut for 22 million Canadians, against other measures for children throughout the country, against the grocery benefit that will give families $1,800 per year this year. They should correct their own message and support the government.
Stop.
The Honourable Member for Richemont at Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. QRAM software, cost overruns of $5 billion, and it doesn't work. The minister wanted examples of cases. I invite her to read Valérie Gamache's article in Radio-Canada this morning. Madame Derap, a resident of Gaspé, said, I made a call, and the gentleman said, Madam, really sorry. I can't guarantee anything. It could take 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months. We have no idea when our files will be up to date. Well, Mr. Speaker, if our entrepreneurs ran their businesses like the Liberals, they would all be bankrupt. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister's uninterested in this. The Honourable Minister, the QRAM software serves 7.7 million Canadians throughout this country. For OAS, the previous system, according to the Office of the Auditor General in 2014, said it was arriving at the end of its life cycle. Had we not made these changes, 7.7 million Canadians would be having some serious problems. Yes, there are urgent cases. My colleague, the Minister for Employment, is working hard at this. We want to make sure all Canadians receive their payments in a timely way. Mr. Speaker, I've been asking questions for a while now on these issues. There are still thousands of cases. In my own riding, Martial Lavoie, who's listening to us on a daily basis, he calls Service Canada to try to find out if there has been any progress on his application. But the days go by, and there's this pre-recorded message, and it says, please note that due to a problem with the self-service system, information on old age security pension payments is not available. That's the message. Why should seniors pay the price for this IT and financial fiasco and pass on the $5 billion cost overruns to future generations? The Honourable Minister.
Whoever opposite has Monsieur Lavoie, who's experiencing such difficulties, surely he knows that there is an MP hotline that he can use himself, or, as I've mentioned many times, he can certainly come to me and we will ensure that Mr. Lavoie gets his benefits urgently. As the member knows, this is an ancient system. It was prone to problems and to difficulties. Canadians expect systems that are modern and that they can access online. This provides security for benefits that Canadians rely on in a time where security is of paramount importance, and I hope that the member
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, in response to a question from the Bloc Québécois, the minister accused us of scaremongering about QRM. 85,000 seniors who are having problems accessing old age security benefits, that's scaremongering. What actually really scares people is not the Bloc Québécois' questions, but the costly failures of a malfunctioning computer system. When the CBC headline says, failures in the new federal old age security pension management system are causing concern and anxiety among many seniors, would the minister consider that Radio-Canada is also scaremongering? The Honourable Minister. It is true that's the first thing that people are afraid of.
Need. And Mr. Speaker, let me be clear, that's exactly why we've modernized this system, because a 60-year-old system was guaranteed to fail. In fact, that's what the Auditor General said. So I think we agree it was time to modernize. And 7.7 million Canadians are receiving payments on time, on schedule. The remaining Canadians that have applied by paper largely are getting the help that they need. And Mr. Speaker, we urge all Canadians to apply online for
The Honourable Member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, worries, anxiety, that's what thousands of seniors are experiencing because of the minister's computer system. And frankly, she seems to be taking this matter very lightly. This government is more willing to defend QRM than to work for seniors. But while old age security payments are not coming in because of QRM's failures, the bills are still coming in. They still have to buy groceries to feed themselves, and they still have to pay the rent on the first of the month. What concrete steps will the minister take to help the 85,000 seniors and counting who are victims of her computer system's malfunctioning? The Honourable Minister.
In fact, Mr. Speaker, the numbers of seniors waiting for their first payment is going down. And I will remind the member opposite that these are very specific cases that are largely paper application. This system is designed to provide the stability that Canadians expect, including Quebecers, when they receive benefits from Canada. More and more people are applying online, Mr. Speaker, and I will just say that it's a very important tool that Canadians expect to have available when it's their turn to apply for CPP and OAS.
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, when the IRGC shot down Flight PS 752, 55 Canadians were murdered. In the days that followed, I stood with those grieving families in my riding and promised them Canada would be a place of safety, not a place where people connected to that regime could live freely. Yet yesterday, at committee, officials admitted they cannot deport Iranian regime officials already here. They can claim asylum. They say there are no flights and that their identities must remain protected. How is it possible that the victims' families live in fear while members of that regime live safely in our communities?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we've taken decisive action to ensure the accountability for IRGC officials. First and foremost, we listed the Iranian state as a state sponsor of terrorism, Mr. Speaker. We have sanctioned over 200 individuals. We've listed the IRGC in 2024, and we are expeditiously working on removing those who are ineligible and inadmissible to Canada, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to ensure the safety and security of all Canadians, including Iranian Canadians.
Well done. The Honourable Member for Cloverdale Langley City.
This threat is no longer distant. It is happening right here in Canada. Last week, 3 synagogues were shot out. Now, an Iranian activist has gone missing. Police are investigating it as a homicide while the Iranian community fears Tehran's involvement. Meanwhile, hundreds of people linked to the IRGC are living freely in our country. I stood beside PS 752 families in my riding and promised Canada would stand up to this regime. Instead, this government has allowed its agents to operate on our soil. Why has this minister allowed Canada to become a safe haven for a terrorist regime?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, Canada is leading the fight on ensuring accountability for those impacted by PS 752. We have taken action right at the International Criminal Court, Mr. Speaker, and we continue to work with families and survivors to ensure that they do receive the justice that they seek. Let me just be very clear, Mr. Speaker. Those who are members of the IRGC, who are senior members, are inadmissible to be in Canada, and they will be removed, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Liberals are allowing foreign conflicts to spill onto our streets, Mr. Speaker, and Canadians are paying the price. An Iranian activist is missing, and it looks more and more like Tehran is involved. Meanwhile, hundreds of IRGC agents live in Canada, hanging out in cafes and going to the gym. Yet Canadian officials say they can't deport these terrorists because they can claim asylum, there are no flights to Iran, and their privacy must be protected. Thoughts and prayers are not going to cut it, Mr. Speaker. Why is the immigration minister still failing to protect Canadians, and why does she still have her job?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let's be very clear, Mr. Speaker. The IRGC was listed as a terrorist entity in 2024. Canada has listed Iran as a state sponsor of terrorism. We have sanctioned over 200 Iranian officials. We are working to ensure that those who are inadmissible in Canada are removed, and we've already started the process. One has already been removed, Mr. Speaker. We have canceled dozens of visas for those who are ineligible to be here. We will continue to ensure the safety and security of Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Can I just recap what's in the Public Safety Minister's QP binder? He just said, of the 700 Iranian regime officials, human rights abusers, one has been deported. Why hasn't he asked his department officials to at least update the garbage that's in his QP binder?
The Honourable Member used that term once before, and I didn't quite like it, and I do have a responsibility for trying to maintain some decorum. Yeah, I don't think it's very parliamentary. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me first of all reject the notion, the 700 number that the party opposite has been using. There are efforts in place as we speak by the Canada Border Service Agency to remove those who are inadmissible to Canada, Mr. Speaker. They have reviewed over 18,000 applications for inadmissibility, Mr. Speaker. They have opened over 170 investigations and have approximately 240 visas that have been cancelled. We have removed individuals who are members of the IRGC. We will continue to go through the process to remove them. Let's be very clear. Those who are ineligible and inadmissible will be...
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Okay, so he said he's removed one, and now he says, I dispute the 700 number. So is it 1,000? Is it 2,000? However is it? No, this is serious. We have members of the Persian community that are seeing their businesses shot up. People are living in fear in the street, and the Liberal immigration minister has done nothing to change the law, nothing to keep her officials in line. Why does she still have her job?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's be clear here. This government, in 2024, the former government listed the IRGC as a terrorist entity in Canada. IRGC officials that are found in Canada have had their visas cancelled, they have lost their status, and they are being removed by CBSA. We will continue to do that Any permit extensions have not been granted. They will be removed. On this side of the House, we will continue to stand with the Iranian people. We will support the CBSA and do everything necessary to protect the safety of Canadians.
The honourable member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, men and boys in this country are facing a mental health crisis. 75% of suicides in this country are men. 75% of drug overdoses in this country are men. Men's life expectancy is 4.5 years shorter. 65% of men delay seeking help. Can the Minister of Health confirm that this government is committed to ending the stigma around men's mental health?
L'honorable ministre. Oui, mais on va écouter l'honorable ministre de la Santé.
Yes, let's hear from the Honourable Minister of Health.
I want to thank my colleague from Edmonton Riverbend for his question and welcome him to this side of the House. We need to end stigmas around men's and boys' health. That's why we launched a national conversation on men and boys' health so that we can make a real difference in the health and well-being of men and boys across the country. That will help create stronger families and more thriving communities. We look forward working with all parties to make sure everyone has a voice in this conversation. Thank you.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Control global events or leaders, but Liberals control the policies that drive up costs here at home. The Energy Minister brags about pipelines to the U.S., but spins about Canadian pipelines. The facts: 2 export pipelines to Europe and Asia, killed by these Liberals. Bought the costly TMX, which mostly goes to the U.S., without a path for the company to build. No progress on their promised Pacific pipeline, nothing from the Major Projects Office. And the federal industrial carbon tax costs Canadian businesses that the U.S. doesn't have. Why won't the PM repeal his anti-development laws and taxes so Canada can fuel allies abroad and bring affordability home?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure what they've been doing, but we've been working with the government of Alberta. We've been working with the government of Alberta to see the Pathways project built. We've been working with the government of Alberta to look at options to the West Coast. We've been looking at with the government of Alberta for new nuclear, for new renewables. They should get on board too.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Spin, 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 because here's the deal. Last year, the Prime Minister promised a Pacific pipeline, yet keeps all the laws and regs that block building. The Liberals brought in C5 to work around their own red tape. Conservatives to improve and pass it, but no results so far. The feds haven't started their Indigenous consultation. No private sector company will touch a pipeline alone under Liberal laws. 75% of Canadians want pipelines. The world wants Canadian energy, but Canada can't ship it because of these Liberals. So when will the PM get out of the way, scrap his anti-development agenda, and give Canadians certainty and affordability here at home?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I assume the member opposite is then suggesting that the Premier of Alberta get out of the way. I guess she's suggesting that that Minister Jean get out of the way. I guess she's suggesting Minister Neudorf get out of the way because they're all working with us to build Canada. Maybe they should try that too.
The honourable member for Swift Current Grasslands, Kindersley.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has been in office for a year already, and like a good old Liberal, he has only re-announced projects that were already approved. No new energy projects proposed, let alone built. The Major Projects Office has been reviewing the Kitimat project for 180 days already. Meanwhile, Germany built an entire LNG terminal in only 194 days. Conservatives wanted shovels in the ground this week, and we previously tried to pass the Canadian Sovereignty Act to make us stronger at home and support our allies. But the Liberals voted against that. Why won't they cancel their anti-development policies and get things done?
The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, well, the Conservatives built nothing. Here's what we did. LNG Canada 1, shipping today. Cedar LNG, under development. Wood Fiber LNG, under construction. Tilbury expanding. LNG Canada, ready to go. Silicium's ready to go. We could keep going, Mr. Speaker. We are building. They do nothing.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the last 4 years, we have had 2 wars that plunged the world into a major energy crisis. Our allies are looking for reliable energy partners. Canada has 10% of world oil reserves and huge natural gas, uranium, and hydroelectricity reserves. We ought to be a world energy leader. But the reality is that we don't even have the infrastructure we would need to export our resources to our allies who need them. The Liberals have exceptional powers to sign off on major projects, but to date, nothing has happened. So why are the Liberals letting our country have all this potential but not develop it? The Honourable Minister for Canada-US Trade. Mr. Speaker, we agree with our opposition colleague that it's important to build a strong Canadian economy. And the good news is that the Conservative Party was a stakeholder in adopting Bill C-5, which enabled the government to speed up major projects construction, including major energy infrastructure projects, as our colleague just talked about. For example, I just went to Contrecoeur in Montreal. There will be more ports as well. There will be good news in the next few weeks, and I'm looking forward to support from our colleague. The Honourable Member from Montmorency-Charlevoix. Well, apparently there's good news to come, but press releases are not the same thing as an actual project. Germany took only 194 days to build an LNG terminal, but in the same span of time in Canada, all we've produced are announcements. If we took advantage of our resources, we could make people better off, and we could invest in the transition to other types of energy, among other things, at a time when the world needs our resources and families are struggling to make ends meet. When will the Liberal government stop just talking? When will it start approving projects, exporting our resources, and making Canadians richer? The Honourable Minister. Well, I don't wish to plagiarize our colleague for finance. We have good news for our colleague. This week, the Prime Minister was in India. We signed a $2.5 billion agreement on energy exports. We are working with the government of Newfoundland and Labrador to approve an energy project off the coast, and we are also approving the extended mine for uranium in Saskatchewan. We are hard at work. The Conservatives, all they do is criticize.
Lake West, South Kelowna.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister says Canada should strive to be our own best customer. Well, Conservatives couldn't agree more, and that's why we want a one Canadian economy where a craft brewer in the Maritimes, a distiller in Ontario, or vintner in the Okanagan can sell to any adult Canadian anywhere in this country. But his Canada Day deadline of last year to fix this has come and gone, leaving beer, wine, and spirits stuck behind trade barriers. Will this government finally live up to its own rhetoric, support our common sense Conservative bill, and allow Canadians to finally be our own best customer?
The Honourable Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank our colleague for his consistent work in terms of removing barriers to interprovincial trade. As he knows very well, the federal government removed all of our exemptions to free trade in Canada by legislation supported by the Conservatives in June. I know he has, and he should be as pleased as we are, that the government of Ontario and Nova Scotia recently signed an agreement to allow direct-to-consumer sale of alcohol. And I am meeting interprovincial trade ministers later this month and will absolutely go further.
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Mr. Speaker, producers in my riding find it easier to ship a bottle of wine to London, England than to London, Ontario. These trade walls are blocking the growth of producers across this great country. The Prime Minister tells Canadians that we need to focus on the things that we can control. Parliament has control over Canada Post and interprovincial shipping. I invite the Liberals to steal this idea so they could do so today. Will the Prime Minister focus on what we can control, steal my bill, finally tear down these walls for all Canadian consumers and producers, and free the beer?
The Honourable Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, our colleague has highlighted consistently one of the important challenges in having free trade across Canada. As he well knows, the regulation of the sale of alcohol is within the hands of provincial and territorial governments. However, his idea of changing Section 19 of the Canada Post Act to incentivize provinces to allow and to cooperate with the Government of Canada is a good one, and I will happily raise it with provincial ministers later this month and look forward to working with him on this important issue.
The Honourable Member for Mission Mapsquee Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, despite the Prime Minister promising to eliminate all federal barriers to interprovincial trade by Canada Day 2025, that promise has proven to be an illusion. In many cases, it's still easier for British Columbian distilleries to sell their products to Washington State than to Nova Scotia. Can the Prime Minister provide a specific date when it will be easier for British Columbian distillers to sell in Canada versus the United States?
The Honourable Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I indicated to the colleague that we have called an urgent meeting of interprovincial trade ministers following the Prime Minister's meeting with First Ministers at the end of January. That's happening in a few weeks. We're going to seek to make progress in collaboration with provinces. I would ask the colleague to note that it was Ontario and Nova Scotia, two champions in the removal of interprovincial trade barriers, who signed an agreement to allow direct-to-consumer sales of alcohol. I will happily raise it with provincial ministers and do what's necessary for the Government of Canada to be a partner.
The Honourable Member for Mission Mapsquee Abbotsford.
The problem, Mr. Speaker, is that the Liberal government misled Canadians when they made the promise that interprovincial trade would actually be eliminated in Canada by 2025. The CBC reported in January that interprovincial trade is still like a 9% tariff on the Canadian economy, accounting for $210 billion of lost goods. So I'll ask the question again. Can the Prime Minister provide a specific date, not just when alcohol will be free, but all services and goods will be free to trade in Canada amongst provinces to build our country up?
There you go.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our colleague, I think, would remember very well the votes that happened at the end of June when we passed Bill C-5, which removed all federal barriers to interprovincial trade in Canada.
That's right.
He's highlighting something with which we agree, the important GDP boost of removing all of these barriers. The vast majority of these barriers have always been in the hands of provinces and territories. We thought it was important for the Government of Canada to eliminate our exceptions to free trade in Canada. We did that, and now we're going to work with the provinces to get the job done.
The Honourable Member for Honoré-Mercier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians have elected a new government. Yes, a new government with the mandate of building a strong Canada, making the country safer, and developing our international partnerships. The world is changing quickly, and our government is concentrating on what we can control. Can the Minister of National Defence tell the House about the progress in our defence partnerships throughout the world? The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Mr. Speaker, Canada is a Pacific country, and we are proud of broadening our partnership with Australia. Last week, we were in Australia in order to strengthen our relationship and to increase our cooperation in the areas of military exercises and acquisition, including training our forces on the Arctic over-the-horizon radar system. Mr. Speaker, we are rapidly developing our defense partnerships throughout the world.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands.
Canadians have recently learned that the Liberal government provided a $206 million below market rate loan and nearly $150 million in subsidies to a wind farm in Nova Scotia linked closely to former Liberal MPs. Meanwhile, a similar project secured $240 million in private sector funding at no cost to the taxpayer. The difference between the two, of course, is the closeness to the Liberal government. Why did the Liberals provide this sweetheart deal to their well-connected friends at the expense of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this project is about clean energy, it's about local jobs and economic growth. This was approved through the independent process at the Canada Infrastructure Bank, led by nonpartisan officials. And even, Mr. Speaker, the Progressive Conservative government of Nova Scotia is backing this project, supporting it, and it's easy to see why. It's creating clean energy, it's creating good jobs for Nova Scotians, and strengthening the local community. Mr. Speaker, it's a great project. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Well, you'll have to excuse me, Speaker, if I don't take these Liberals' word for it. They call themselves a new government, but these are these same Liberals who 10 times have been found to have broken Canada's ethics laws. And they always deny it, and they always defend the indefensible. What we're talking about here is hundreds of millions of dollars going to a sweetheart deal for well-connected Liberal insiders. And the solution is very simple. Instead of just saying, trust us, these Liberals can do the right thing and release to Canadians all of the information about the decision that led them to give this sweetheart deal to these well-connected Liberal insiders.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, Nova Scotians need action, and they need clean energy, not political games from the Conservatives here. That's right. They had the support of the Progressive Conservative government in Nova Scotia to advance this project and fund it. Officials here at the Infrastructure Bank have supported the project. Mr. Speaker, these are good jobs, energy reliability, and choice for Nova Scotians. Thank you.
Member for Haldimand, Norfolk.
Liberal insiders connected to former Liberal MPs received a $206 million below market rate loan from the Canada Infrastructure Bank and nearly $150 million in subsidies for a Nova Scotia wind farm project. Canadians are tired. Tired of Liberal insiders getting rich off of taxpayer dollars, while millions of Canadians are lined up at food banks every single month. When will the Liberals finally make life more affordable for Canadians instead of lining the pockets of Liberal connected?
The Honourable Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, you know who's tired? You know who's tired of the conspiracy theories? The Conservative Premier of Nova Scotia. The Conservative Premier of Nova Scotia who stood beside us and said this is a great project. This is a project that creates jobs in Nova Scotia. This is a project that brings new energy to Nova Scotia. They should get on board.
The Honourable Member for Milton East, Halton Hills South.
Mr. Speaker, on December 22nd, Canada submitted its plan for the long-term reform of First Nations Child and Family Services, which has the potential to transform care for our children and to address historic wrongs. Can the Minister of Indigenous Services please speak to the contents of the proposal to the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, we've launched a new path forward to long-term reform of child and family services, one that acknowledges regional realities and puts First Nations children and families first. This approach is supported by an ongoing commitment of over $35 billion for a 7-year period and $4.4 billion ongoing afterwards. I want to ensure that children are connected to their families, cultures, and communities. By seeking these regional agreements, we are able to respect the distinct realities of First Nations across the country. We are committed to moving ahead with urgency, care, and responsibility. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, to the Tumbler Ridge families of Zoe, Tiki, Abel, Ezekiel, Kylie, Shanda, Emmett, and Jennifer, we continue to grieve with you. Thanks to our leader, thanks to the Prime Minister, and all the federal leaders for making the trip to Tumbler Ridge to support us. Thanks to all of you who've reached out over these last 4 weeks to give kind notes to me and in some semblance of trying to pass on your peace to me. Thanks to those really, though, around the world who've been praying for the Tumbler Ridge community, who've been praying for Maya and other victims, and who've been praying for me. Jesus has been the light to me in this darkness, as he has been to so many other victims' families at this tragedy. Tumbler Ridge families, though, now are asking about what can be done so this never happens again. So I asked the Prime Minister today, will you commit today to a full public inquiry into the Tumbler Ridge tragedy? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me just at the outset extend my deepest condolences to the families and the community of Tumbler Ridge for the deep impact of what's happened in their community. And I want to just acknowledge the incredible leadership of the member opposite, who has tirelessly worked for the last several weeks in supporting the community and ensuring that his community is supported. I've had a number of conversations with him over the last several weeks. And one thing I will say today and I will commit to is working with him and working with the community to ensure the right steps are taken. We will work in collaboration with the province of British Columbia. We know that there's many unanswered questions. There's a coroner's inquest that's in progress, as well as an investigation on the internal affairs of policing. But our commitment to the people of Tumbler Ridge is clear, Mr. Speaker. We will get and seek the answers that they demand. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, New Democrats' hearts also go out to all of the community in Tumbler Ridge. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister told the world in Davos that Canada will be principled in our commitment to the prohibition of the use of force, except when consistent with the UN Charter. The attack on Iran by the US and Israel clearly violates the UN Charter, as the Prime Minister himself has admitted. Yet, he supports it. Will the Prime Minister explain to Canadians why he betrayed his commitment and now supports a war he knows is illegal?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we support Iran from never obtaining a nuclear weapon. That has been the policy position of successive governments of Canada. Iran must never have nuclear capacity. The support is not a blank check. Canada reaffirms that international law binds all parties. Canada is a country of international law, and all actors, including the United States and Israel, must respect the rules of international engagements. These are established international processes.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Well, there's a word for that, Mr. Speaker: hypocrisy. The Liberals like to say that we should spend less and invest more. It sounds great, but it's a hollow slogan. In fact, these cuts are hurting people and often show a total lack of vision. In Quebec City, the Liberals have decided to close the Agricultural Research and Development Centre. We should be protecting our food security, increasing our productivity, and diminishing our environmental impact. This decision means that the government is shooting itself in the foot. Why is it losing that expertise and give up on research that is crucial for our future?
Mr. Speaker, as the Honourable Member said, this is a difficult situation that we find ourselves in, of lack of investment over a number of years through many governments, Mr. Speaker, maintaining our presence in every province, streamlining research and development, building a more collaborative science system that supports producers and strengthens our competitiveness is what this government's going to do. We are not going to put ourselves at a global uncompetitive level at the national level or international level. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That concludes question period. ready to, in a moment, we're ready to move on to
All right. That was a short question period. They started late and they finished early. Wow. Well, let's go back over what they talked about. First 6 questions were a mishmash of crime and terrorism and inflation and open border policies and criminals and unaffordability. For the past 10 years. Just forgetting that they are the ones who cause issues. But as soon as I finish, run up, next thing you know, we get the choppiness. Interesting, eh? All right. Then, of course, the Bloc Québécois. First couple of questions were kind of very odd. Meandering about the opacity of liberals and what they're doing. We have no clue. Are you going to help with the cost of living? You're going to help with farms? We're not sure. And then finally, they just devolved back into the questions they ask every day, which is about OAS, which, of course, is still lagging behind actually getting everybody as part of it. And, of course, the liberals say, well, if we hadn't done anything, it would have collapsed. Well, yeah, but you did do something and you fucked it up. And now you're paying for it. Well, actually, no, you're not paying for it. Seniors are paying for it. So it looks like by the end of this week, there will be a part 5 to Screw You Seniors as we continue to accumulate all the OAS discussions in question period. Of course, the other part is, as they discussed yesterday, was the fact that there was no progress on the projects. A lot of announcements, a lot of feel-good announcements, but no shovels in the ground. Nothing actually getting done. They keep saying, oh, why don't they come on our side? We're having discussions. Yeah, you're having discussions because you paid people hundreds of thousands of dollars in new departments that you set up in order to have those discussions so that you could say you're having discussions and look like you're actually doing something when nothing is actually getting done. Also, of course, what was asked was the fact that taxes are going up again, 1st of April, because, that's how the liberals love to do their stuff. They only do stuff with other people's money. And man, they can't get enough of that. That's why the taxes are going up. And of course, the green meanies, they insist that a tax is a tax. And we have another issue there. Why is that? Why did my CPU bump up to 32%? There's no reason. There's nothing running. Absolutely nothing running on my system whatsoever other than this. It's insane. Now, apparently, alcohol going between the provinces is still an issue because the interprovincial trade that the Liberals promised they said they would fix, they didn't fix. They only said, well, we'll do what we can, but, I think we're getting together with the provincial leaders next week. So much for getting that done by 2025, which you never intended to. So again, more announcements about more talks while getting nothing done at all. But meanwhile, the mainstream media continue to act like they're actually getting something done when they are not at all. So they keep saying that green taxes don't increase the cost of anything. But that is a mathematical impossibility because if you are paying a tax or a fee on anything, it's going to cost you more. And that cost is going to filter down to your operation. So they're a bunch of lying fucks, as usual. Apparently, we've given a massive loan with no interest, which, of course, we'll never expect to get paid back. Or another green scam project of wind farms, building wind farms out east. Oh, it's going to create jobs, it's going to create free energy, except when the wind's not running. And we all know wind farms are useless. They cost per ton of regular energy. I see. We keep having these streaming issues, so we will reduce the output once again. That's what I get for living too close to a base. Now, of course, they did ask for a public inquiry into the Tumbler Ridge, which would be interesting because I'm sure they want to avoid that because we know what they're going to talk about. They are going to be talking about the trans ideology and why this kid got so screwed up in the head. And that led him to do this massive crime. So, of course, they never committed to that. Oh, we're looking into it. We want to get to the bottom of it. But no, they didn't actually commit to an inquiry because that's the last thing the Liberals would ever want. And when they are finally pushed into an inquiry of any kind, well, they always ensure that they stack the deck by putting people to run that inquiry that are all Liberal friendly. Now, of course, the NDP are all upset that the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran, saying it's an international law, blah, 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 blah. Of course, you know, the lefties, they never say a word about the 75,000 plus Iranians that have been killed by their own government since 1978 because they ran afoul of Islamic law that wasn't there before. Of course, the lefties never talk about the state-funded terrorism that their oil reserves have been paying and funding. There we go, we're back. My mic died for no reason. Okay, this stream is having too many issues. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with the second breakfast, and then we'll try this again tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 where we cover the no answer period. Thanks for coming out.
Institutions can't access security funding, that there is zero enforcement of the laws that are already on the books. And I'm going to give the Minister of Public Safety an opportunity. Get up in his chair, say that it's terrorism, and tell this House what he's going to do, when he's going to do it, and how he's going to do it.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Speech yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth for those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
The Minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears.
It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
All of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Know that this government has their back and we will continue to do that. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been made.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
There was some very unparliamentary language that we heard today.
Sets us up well for the new world order.
There is zero enforcement of the laws that are already on the books. And I'm going to give the Minister of Public Safety an opportunity. Get up in his chair, say that it's terrorism, and tell this House what he's going to do, when he's going to do it, and how he's going to do it.
Also voting to keep it legal to display swastikas on our streets.
Hunt down and lock up the people who perpetrate the violence. Enforce the law and deport the terrorists that the minister knows live here in Canada. When is he or anyone in the government going to say any of those things?
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
My comment by telling the truth that the answer was bovine excrement.
But a lot of people do eat iguanas. They're actually, I have had iguana. It's fine.
Yeah.
The good news is also some of these iguanas, as far as people eating them, they are halal. So, yeah.
Oh, good.
Sorry. That's way funnier than I thought it would be. Because of the sound effect.
Nailed it.
Sorry, people on audio. You're missing out.